One night in early spring, Vladimir Putin woke up in a cold sweat. In his dream, he had been standing alone in a white void, until a voice called his name, not in Russian, but in the language of the soul. "Why do you spill the blood I once breathed into life?" It began on a bitterly cold night in March, deep within the stone walls of the Kremlin. President Vladimir Putin had fallen asleep at his desk. Not the silence of peace. The silence before something speaks. In his dream, Putin stood alone in a white void. Endless. Without ceiling, without floor, without sky. Just white, a soft, pulsating white like breath held too long. Ahead of him, a single object floated mid-air. A throne, ancient, gold, and cracked. But empty. He stepped forward. His footsteps made no sound. Then, a voice spoke, not aloud, but deep inside his consciousness. A voice without language, yet understood perfectly. "Why do you sit in a seat that is not yours?" Putin stopped. "Who are you?" he asked, though his lips never moved. The voice replied, "I am the one who gave you your first breath, and you are using it to extinguish the breath of thousands." Putin looked at his hands. They were stained red. Not wet. Just marked, as if the blood had sunk into his skin and become a part of him. Then the void around him rippled, and the light dimmed. The throne ahead cracked louder. One of its arms splintered and fell, disappearing into the abyss. And the voice whispered again, softer now, almost like sorrow. "This is the silence you have chosen. But I am still listening." Putin turned to run, but there was nowhere to go. The dream held him like judgment. The silence broke with a low, rising hum, like the vibration of distant bells underwater. Putin looked down. Where once there had been nothing beneath his feet, now a surface was forming, slowly. The color spreading like infection across the borders. The ground beneath his shoes crackled and hissed with heat. He could hear faint screams far away, like echoes bouncing from the souls of the dead. He turned away, but the map rose up around him like walls, burning geography closing in on all sides. Suddenly, he was standing in a chamber of fire made entirely of smoke and sorrow, the streets of Ukraine blazing silently around him. The air was filled not with flames, but with faces. A mother clutching her child in the rubble. A soldier crying into bloodied hands. A priest holding a broken crucifix over an empty grave. They weren't moving. Just watching him. Judging him. Then the voice returned. Calm. Measured. "Do you see glory in this?" Putin swallowed, unable to answer. "Do you see your nation, or only your name?" God wasn't just speaking to him. He was listening to someone else, too. Emerged a vast mirror unlike any he had seen. Its surface was a deep, obsidian black, smooth yet seemingly alive. Framed by intricate carvings of ancient symbols that seemed to shift and writhe subtly in the dim light. Putin stepped forward hesitantly, drawn by a mixture of dread and curiosity. Expecting to see his own face staring back, he was instead met with something far more unsettling. Reflected in the glass were not his features, but the haunting visages of history's most notorious rulers, emperors and conquerors whose names were etched in both glory and infamy. Caesar's cold echoed through the void. "You think you control the threads of fate, but you are merely a fleeting shadow passing through time's endless corridor." Putin searched for his own reflection, but it never came. Instead, the mirror whispered, its voice like 1,000 secrets pressing upon him. "Each bullet you fire, every deception you weave, every life you shatter, you are inscribing your own sentence. Not just for your people, but for your soul." The air grew heavy, suffocating almost, as the weight of judgment pressed down on him. He tried to turn away, to escape the mirror's unyielding gaze, but invisible chains held him fast. The mirror demanded one thing. Scorched, yet still emanating a dark, unnatural power. Ghostly figures knelt before it, their faces obscured by shadows, whispering praises tinged with fear. To his right, A narrow path lined with bleeding wounds, deep gashes in the earth, from which sprouted fragile, glowing flowers. The air was thick with a faint scent of rain and renewal, promising life amid pain. A voice, calm yet unyielding, spoke beside him, the same voice he had heard since the dream began. One path leads to a crown forged by suffering and fear, the other to healing, those scarred by sacrifice. The choice is yours, but once taken, it can never be undone. Putin's gaze wavered between the two. If I turn away from the throne, what becomes of my power? Who will protect me from the chaos I leave behind? The voice answered softly. Only those who choose mercy find true strength. Those who cling to control risk losing everything, even themselves. A sudden gust of cold wind swept through the void. The throne's shadows flickered ominously. The flowers shimmered with fragile light. Putin took a hesitant step forward, eyes snapping open to the cold reality of his dimly lit study within the Kremlin's ancient walls. A bead of sweat traced a slow path down his temple, his breath coming in shallow, uneven gasps. The room was silent, save for the ticking of an ornate clock on the far wall, its hands frozen at 3:03 a.m. He sat motionless for a moment, the echoes of the dream still pulsing like distant thunder in his mind. Around him lay the tangible remnants of power, maps detailing conflict zones, dossiers thick with intelligence reports, and blueprints marked with red circles and notes, instruments of war and control. Yet none of it seemed to matter now. Watching as darkness and glow danced a fragile dance, much like the fragile balance within his own soul. Slowly, almost reverently, he reached for a pen resting beside the papers. Is there anyone truly listening, besides the enemy I fight? His hand trembled slightly as he set the pen down. For the first time in a long while, doubt settled within him, a quiet, unsettling whisper beneath the roar of command and conviction. Outside, snowflakes drifted softly against the cold Moscow night, blanketing the city in a hushed stillness. Inside, a flicker of something unfamiliar stirred in the darkness of a man's heart. In the shadows of dreams and silent choices, is there truly a voice that intervenes? Can the steps taken on the path of power alter destiny itself? The answer may not lie in our hands. But this story will linger, echoing in the minds of those brave enough to face the truth. If this story made you think, share your thoughts below about dreams that might change fate.